Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Jnanavardhini FDB-based weekly knowledge session. Our speaker for the day is Mr. Adepu. He'll be discussing the regulatory guidance for cloud adoptions. He's a very senior member of FDBPI. Mr. Adepu has worked for 30 years in Indian banking sector as banking technologist in various banks like Canara Bank, Global Trust Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and ICICI Bank. In 2015, he ventured into information security assurance service with the ISO 27001 lead auditor qualification. He supported various organizations as a consultant to prepare organizations for ISMS certification and undertaking internal audit for clients. He qualified as QSA PCI DSS assessor in 2018. His other certifications include PIMS, CISA, and CDPSC from Isaka. Currently, he is heading compliance service function at Vista Infosec Mumbai. Before Vista Infosec, he was with the BSI Group as auditor for 4.5 years. Thank you for agreeing to do this session, Adepu sir. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Manju, for the brief introduction. This is my fourth participation as a presenter in this platform. And Manju was asking for quite some time, sir, do something. So since I came to Hyderabad, I have some time, I gone through these circulars and created material, and I'm able to share this presentation. I welcome all for this session. As a part of being in a working for organization, there's a disclaimer from my side. This session and what are the opinions or the information I am sharing is from my personal point of view, not to be associated with my organizations where I work or working. The information and what are the documents I am mentioning here are available in the public domain, and their authenticity, accuracy is not verified except the respective regulatory circulars, what I'm going to mention here. The session is only for the purpose of knowledge sharing, but not any commercial activity. It is for sharing knowledge and discussing and understanding the subject matter. My presentation of this day is mainly based on the SEBI circular, which has come in the month of March 23. And this is going to be affected from the March 24. After 1 year, 12 months time, they're given for the regulated entities to be prepared on these lines to implement a framework for the cloud adoptions. That is the main source is from SEBI circular. Also, RBI also has come up another circular in the month of April called Master Direction on the Outsourcing of Information Technology Services. There also is not a main circular on the cloud services, but as annexure they given in banking sector, the regulated entities of RBI, if they adopt cloud adoption, what they have to do it, what is the requirement from the compliance and the liquidity point of view. These are the main sources in a current Indian scenario for the cloud adoption from the regulators. So these are the basic for my delivery. As per the applicability of the circular, when we see this list of the applicability organizations, half of the Indian business comes into this picture. All stock exchanges, including the energy stock exchange, water stock exchange running in India today, all clearing corporations, depositories, all stock brokers, individual level also, and depository participants, all mutual funds, asset management companies, trusteeship companies, and the board of trustees of the mutual funds, Association of Mutual Funds India also covers under this purview. All KYC research agencies, all qualified registrars of the issue and share transfer agencies in India. These are the organizations which comes under the purview of SEBI as a regulatory body. And when we look at the RBI coverage, all scheduled commercial banks except the RRBs, small finance banks, and all payment banks, all NBFCs of all categories, and credit information companies like CIBIL, and some of the Indian financial institutions like Exim Bank, NABARD, National Housing Bank, CDB also comes under this purview of this guidance. As we all know, cloud deployment models are mainly 4 different models are there. They are public cloud, community cloud, the private cloud, the hybrid cloud. However, the SEBI framework advised in the circular applies to public cloud and community cloud deployments only. And they are not covering at present the private and hybrid cloud. I don't know the reason they not mentioned it, but future may consider to expand the scope. REs are permitted to deploy. RE means regulated entity. All the entities regulated by the SEBI. It is called RE in short. REs are permitted to deploy public cloud and community cloud for their business requirements. This entire framework of SEBI is based on these 9 principles, covering from governance, risk compliance as a sub-framework, and how to select a cloud service provider, what is the basis organization to consider, and data ownership and data localization. This is very important from the regulatory point of view. Responsibility of the regulated entity, what is the responsibility they should shoulder, and what type of due diligence they should undertake before venturing into cloud deployments. And once they consider to have a cloud deployment, what sort of security controls they need to be verified before venturing into the cloud environment. And contractual and regulatory obligations from both the sides, from the side of the cloud service providers as well as regulated entities. And further, BCP, disaster recovery, readiness, and cyber resilience requirements. Finally, vendor lock-in. This is one of the great constraints for the companies to enter into or exit out of the cloud environment. Then there's a risk called concentration risk, and a company goes to single cloud entity for all the requirements, then they are going to face a concentration risk. How to handle this risk also been part of this framework. Now we know that cloud service models are basically on 4 types. Infrastructure as a service, the CSPs are providing. Examples are AWS, MS Azure, Google Cloud, all that. Platform as a service. This is another model where, for example, Google App Engine and AWS Elastic Beanstalk, these are some of the samples we come to know in the market. Third one is software as a service, Gmail, what we most of are using it, MS Office 365. Then last one is application as a service, Google Sheets and Google Docs. Ready-made application available, we can use it as our requirement. All these are cloud-based things. There are so many other cloud utilities are there from the cloud service providers. Now, when we look at this principle one by one, these are the requirements and listed as a framework. What is the cloud governance? The top most important requirement from the governance point of view is board approved governance model or strategy, or the board approved policy should be there for an organization to go and consider the cloud deployment. While doing that, they should consist, this framework should consist details of what model they are going to adopt it, and what type of services they're going to avail, and what are the measures in place from both the sides to protect the stakeholders' interest while doing the cloud deployments. The second aspect is cloud risk management. This is also approved by board. The team below the line, they need to develop a risk framework, a risk assessment, which has to be approved by the board before they venture into cloud deployment. While doing the risk assessment, there are 4 major categories. What are the risks associated with technical, legal, business point of view, and regulatory point of view? While considering these 4, they need to have a comprehensive risk assessment with respect to the cloud services. REs cannot outsource the risks and decision-making associated with the cloud deployments. This is finally, but more, I come to know during my audit days, there are my client members said, this is a cloud service, we are safe, we are everything they take care by them. That is a concept. But this framework strictly tells that your when you are outsourcing the cloud, any application, any business into cloud, the total responsibility is with associated with the company who is going to outsource it. We cannot pass on the responsibility to cloud providers. RE should clearly identify and name a person responsible for security of the deployments in the cloud. This is one significant mention in the framework. Any point of time, there should be a person to be named. He is a person who is responsible for the cloud deployment, what we undertaken it. Like a CSO or the our BPDP insists that a person to be named to internal and external stakeholders to get in touch with and find out any requirements are there from this side. RE shall have policies, procedures, etc. in place to ensure compliance with the applicable legal regulatory requirements, not only SEBI, but also other government agencies, police, or any other law enforcement agency or regulatory agencies. If they come to an organization, this policy very specifically says the organization which is going for the cloud services should take care all the answers to be given by them with the help of the cloud service providers to any regulatory body, not only just SEBI. Further, RE should define role of the board in taking decision about the cloud deployment. What is the role played by the board has to be defined and should be available. And role and responsibility of the key management personnel. If the board is not there, is a small company with 2-3 partners, there also who are the key management personnel, their role in the cloud deployment has to be defined and kept ready for assessment. Senior management and IT teams, every team who are in the cloud operations, they should be know their responsibility, their stake in the cloud deployments. This requirement now, business team should also aware of the way the organization is going about the cloud deployment. I have incorporated, but this is not mentioned in the framework. Because ultimately, even though we do IT support, the governance support, anything, business is also important. They should know what we are doing from the IT perspective. An organization should develop and put in place a redress mechanism for the internal or external stakeholders in case they have any grievance or any requirement because the cloud service has been implemented in the organization. Monitoring and cloud control of the cloud deployments has to be done by the RE. They should closely monitor what's going on from the other side, which they don't have visibility by conducting the VAPT test and the regular audits either by themselves or through outside parties. They should have complete visibility and knowing what is happening in the cloud provider service side also. REs shall regularly assess CSP performance, their risk management practices and legal compliance levels. They should know. It should not tell that a cloud provider, no, this cannot be given to you or will not disclose it. That you're not going to work with this framework. Further, country risk. RE shall closely monitor the CSP's country governance policies and its political, social, economic, and legal conditions on a continuous basis. A foreign country, if they are, even though they put the data center in Indian geography, and basically their business is monitored by their own country policies. So even though they are working, operating in Indian geography, Indian boundaries, we need to know how their country level policy is going to affect this performance of CSPs. These are the key points from the governance and risk compliance point of view.
Adepu sir, before
Yeah.
you go, can I have a understanding?
Please.
Now, this entire circular, the cloud adoption, the applicability or the scope is only for the Indian organizations. Is the understanding right?
No. See, for example, AWS, they put a data center here.
Okay.
Okay. So they give service to, say, our bank.
Right.
Okay. But bank has to get the assurance on all these frameworks from the AWS. So as a sub processor, as a one level below, AWS, even though it's American company, in case they are offering services to an Indian company, that company is mandated by the SEBI or RBI. These controls need to be applied.
Super. So AWS, even if they are an outside our company of mine, our India, they have to adhere to these principles, what you are saying.
That adherence has to be taken care by the respective RE.
Okay, correct. When I have a contract with them, I have to ensure that this AWS or Google, whomever, adhering to the principles laid down by this policy.
There is one more principle is there, contract and how to develop a contract.
Okay.
In the contract, what need to be taken care by RE also very clearly mentioned here.
Thanks, Adepu sir. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Now, the selection of cloud services, on what basis a RE should select a cloud provider? RE should engage only mighty empaneled CSPs data centers holding valid STQC audit status. I think you got this point. Mighty is already evaluating a service provider, then empaneling it. So
excellent.
AWS is responsible for Mighty and STQC certification. Of course, STQC cannot impose a regulatory measure, but Ministry of IT is definitely have a control on those service providers.
Okay. Adepu sir, just a minute, okay, if you don't mind. Navi sir, are you there? Okay, he would have gone for another meeting. Okay, go ahead, sir. I will ask him later. Thank you.
Right. RE shall have a back-to-back clear enforceable agreement with their partners, vendors, subcontractors for ensuring their compliance with respect to the security controls, contractual and regulatory obligations, and BCP, DR, disaster recovery, and cyber resilience. There should be an enforceable agreement which is valid as on date of any point of time. That is to be ensured by the REs, and they continue to avail the services, but the agreement expires, then it is a problem. If anything happens, we cannot enforce that agreement, expired agreement. RE shall ensure that storage, processing, transfer of its data should be done according to the requirements provided in this framework, as well as any other regulatory enforced, like certain any other regulator give guidance. RE should consider that, and they should impose that on the service providers. Any other additional criteria that the RE considers appropriate for their environment should be part of the RE's requirement in their agreement. So based on these requirements, any RE regulatory entity, any organization should select the cloud providers. Principle number 3, that is talks about the data ownership and data localization. Data ownership, RE shall retain the complete ownership of all its data and logs, encryption keys, anything happening.
Adepu sir, one question, sir. Sorry.
No problem.
Have you seen such a condition wherein primary site lies in India, secondary site now is there in Singapore? How does it work in that cases?
You talking about localization? Localization?
Primary site is in India, primary data
right.
center. Secondary data center, they have it in Singapore.
Right. Okay.
In this condition, how does it work? Both are cloud, but one is active, another one is passive.
Yes.
Only in case of any disaster, they do use the secondary side, but data is there too.
Right. For that, see, a part of data residing outside India. That is a condition. That is a status.
Singapore. Other
right.
center is in Singapore.
Out of Singapore is Singapore or Sri Lanka, both are same for us, no? Out of India boundary. There is a condition in the framework. We'll come to in the next slide.
Just a minute, Adepu sir, just a minute. Nagendra, as far as my understanding goes, this data localization, you want at least the one copy need to be retained in India. That is the condition. As far as I remember, it does not say that it should not be kept outside at all. So from the redundancy, resiliency purpose, I am sure that they have the capability to do so.
Yeah. Here, I'll come that this point will come in the next presentation. See, in the very ownership is only the cloud service provider is only fiduciary capacity. He is not the owner. This is very clearly defined, mentioned in the framework. They have only fiduciary capacity to hold the data and do whatever the RE says, not beyond that. RE shall ensure that RE and SEBI and any other government authority authorized under the law shall always have the right to access any or all the data at any point of time which is in the cloud environment. So as per the visibility of data concerned, whenever required by RE or SEBI, the CSP shall provide visibility to RE as well as SEBI into CSP's infrastructure, processes, and its compliance levels, applicable policies and procedures to any regulator. Not just in SEBI, this is it, any regulator of the country. If they want to see what is happening or what happened in the CSP, they should be given a complete access, complete right. Yeah, here also come. Now, clearly that what this framework defines is, in order to ensure that RE and SEBI's right to access RE's data as well as SEBI's right to search and seizure are not affected by the adoption of the cloud services, the data should reside and be processed within the legal boundaries of India. However, for the investors whose country of corporation is outside India, like AWS, Google, whoever it is, the RE shall keep a original data, transactions, logs, everything in original, available and easily accessible in legible, usable form within the legal bounds of India. Even though the DR is in Singapore or anywhere, this is the original data infrastructure logs should always be available within India only. They don't bar, as Ramesh said, having a part of data outside India is not being prevented here. REs are ultimately responsible and accountable for security of their data, including logs, applications, services hosted in the cloud, as well as ensuring compliance with the laws and rules of regulations of the country, our country. So
Nagendra, are we clear, Nagendra? Please check that. What they say is that tomorrow, for any kind of investigation purpose or any kind of right, these guys should not say that no, the data is not available here. That's why this localization. Somewhere this discussion came up earlier. That's why I remember. Just check that, please.
No, not only that, Ramesh. The
yes, sir.
search and seizure also
correct
can be imposed by our regulators.
Correct. Understood.
Not just only asking that information. In case they require, they can go to the site and
yes.
do the state,
audit
the assets if
yes.
the case is so severe.
Yes.
As per the provisions of our Indian laws. Now, fourth principle, responsibility of the regulated entity. What are his responsibility with respect to for going for a cloud environment? REs are solely accountable for all aspects related to cloud services they adopted for their business requirement. This particular point has been reiterated many times in the framework because sole responsibility is RE. They cannot push away their responsibility with on any point by saying that no, this is a cloud environment, we cannot give, we cannot do this. There shall be an explicit and unambiguous delineation or demarcation of the responsibilities with respect to all activities happening in the cloud between RE and CSP. What they do, what we have to do has to be defined by the RE very clearly in the agreement or the documentation, what they need to put in before the adopting the cloud services. There shall be no joint or shared responsibility, or joint or shared ownership on the data or the task or any activity they are doing in the cloud. Very clearly define what part of the environment is controlled by CSP, what control a RE can exercise. The aforementioned delineation responsibility shall be added explicitly in the agreement. Now, what the responsibilities of each party has to be clearly documented in the agreement before venturing into cloud services. An explicit and unambiguous delineation of the delineation or demarcation of responsibility shall also be done with respect to the cloud deployments through MSP, that is managed service providers, and SI is system integrators. Sometimes companies does not directly go to AWS or Google. They go to a third party who taken a major portion of the cloud environment, and they have further offer to down the line. That is managed service providers and system integrators. So whenever any RE associated with the MSP or SI, they also need to equally ensure that all the controls, all the directions given in this framework has to be enforced between these two entities, RE and MSP. There shall be an explicit and unambiguous delineation or demarcation of responsibility between the RE and CSP and MSP, ISP whenever applicable for ensuring the compliance with the respect of the all applicable regulations of our country. Now, 5, what type of due diligence a RE has to do before they go for the cloud deployment? The RE should evaluate the need, why they should adopt cloud, and implications in terms of financial and regulatory implications involved in the cloud adoption, risk and benefits associated with the cloud adoption has to be done before they go for cloud adoption. The RE shall also conduct a risk-based due diligence with respect to CSPs beforehand and on a periodical basis. Normally, companies, when they first start the association with the CSP, they do this type of due diligence, consider various service providers, and based on the various factors, they come to a conclusion. But that will be the end of the verification. The due diligence has to be done on a periodic basis, mostly as per the standards, best practices, and an annual basis. That is what I feel the correct way to ensure the security of the RE. What are the requirements of the REs? A detailed analysis such as a comparative analysis, a SWOT analysis shall also be conducted on the type of cloud model to be adopted, covering various models, need, sustainability, capability of the organization. That is RE. What they can do, what they cannot do, they need to assess, understand, and then only what the offering coming from the service providers, the best of things they can choose it. Further, the due diligence part, the due diligence criteria should cover, there's a high level points the framework says is financial soundness of the CSP and CSP's capability and to identify and segregate the RE's data. They should very clearly able to demonstrate that the data, the application information, what a particular RE will be exclusively segregated and made available, and controls will be implemented in the segregation. Security risk assessment of the CSP, they should undertake. CSP's ability to effectively service all the RE out customers while maintaining the confidentiality. The RE customer suffer something and they're not able to meet the requirement, then this will be a problem for the RE. So RE need to ensure by due diligence, the CSP what they are going to associate will be able to effectively service all their customer requirements as well as organization's own requirement. Ability to enforce agreements and their rights. RE should be able to enforce because this American company, this is a European company, and we cannot enforce our agreement. It is not acceptable to the SEBI or the regulators because RE is going for the cloud. RE shall ensure that CSP performs proper screening and background checks of its personnel and vendors whom they are engaging in providing the cloud services before onboarding. If a person or a third-party vendor further supporting the cloud service providers, they should do the due diligence before they been associated with the service. This is a general requirement any security standard implement requirement. CSPs to provide adequate training and awareness to programs to their personnel who are working for the RE's business. Capability of the CSP to deal with RE's complex needs also to be considered as a part of due diligence by the RE. CSP's ability to ensure compliance with this framework and all applicable regulations of India. These are the high-level points RE should consider while doing the due diligence of any service providers before they enter into agreement. And now the very important point is what type of security controls this framework suggests for a RE to look at the CSP's security posture. Here there are two parts. One is RE shall perform assessment of CSPs. These mentioned controls below, RE has to verify with the CSP. Upon that, CSP themselves, when they go for cloud deployment, what sort of controls has to be in place, also been mentioned in the 6.2 that will come. These are highly, all these are the information security controls like vulnerability management, patch management, security monitoring solutions to be in place. They should be able to do the incident management appropriately, encryption of the key lifecycle management, secure user access management, administrators and privileged users with the least privilege to be provided if the CSP providing these user level, admin level services. Multi-factor authentication is a must. Controls for multi-tenant environment. One service provider, definitely CSPs have a multiple kinds. So in the multiple kind environment, what type of controls to segregate the environment and data has to be there with the CSPs. In case of incident or breach, the RE shall ensure that CSP should provide all related forensic data, reports, and event logs as required by the RE in case of an incident. RE may assess the vulnerability of good global compliance standards like SOC2 reporting for the CSP. Before going to the cloud association, SOC2, one of the globally accepted standard of the CSP can be asked by the REs. Agreement with the CSP should contain exit strategy. Most of the companies, once they enter the position, they think that we first gaya. That is what we say in Hindi. Once they stuck into the alliance, then they will going to be lifelong. That's what the most of the service providers are ensuring it. But companies, before going to the alliance or association with the cloud provider, they should also think about how and when, what they should exit from the alliance and move to some other CSP. This is one of the point to be considered important in this association. And this is second party perform their own risk assessment based on their own position. This is for the RE itself. RE should ensure that they should have a vulnerability management themselves, patch management, periodical vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, incident management and SOC integration, continuous monitoring of the technical, legal, regulatory compliance of their own, secure user management, incident management, security of the interfaces such as management interface and internet-facing interfaces. In case these are the must when we adopt a cloud, internet-facing interface is very critical, and those to be looked into and ensure that they are very secure for the operations. And secure software development lifecycle should be maintained whenever they develop their own software development in the cloud. Their own RE should ensure that their own security software development lifecycle in place and that is working fine as per the current technology standards. Many service providers are system integrators of the management. As a RE, in case they are associated with the SI or MSPs, how they manage the vendor management part, vendor risk association, the third party, small companies coming as SIs and MS. One day they get integrated with some other company, somebody will take over and somebody close down altogether. So these type of risk associated with this going for MSP or SI also to be considered by the RE as part of this framework. Encryption and cryptographic key management, endpoint security, network security, backup and recovery solutions, skill set management of their own teams, and breach notifications as per the regulatory requirements. All these controls should be evaluated by themselves, any RE, before they go for the cloud adoptions. Now, contractual and regulatory obligations in case of these adoptions. A clear and enforceable cloud service provider engagement agreement should be in place. Enforceable and clearly understandable agreement with the involvement of business teams and what the risk associated with the engagement has to be in place as part of the agreement. The agreement shall include the provisions of the audit and information access rights to the RE as well as SEBI and other regulatory agencies of India. The agreement shall be vetted with respect to legal and technical standpoint of view by the RE within internal requirement in internal teams. What legal implications or what technical implication may arise, those to be looked at, and they should be part of the regular contractual agreement. Regulatory enforcement agencies right to conduct the direct audits and inspection of the resources, perform search and seizure of the CSPs. Resources should be a part of the agreement. Clause to engage a forensic auditor to identify the root cause of any incident happens in the cloud environment also should be put as part of the these agreements. See the audit reports of the audits conducted by the CSP. CSP as the organization also conduct the audit, internal, external. So RE should have a right to ask and collect those audit reports and look at them, what happened in the CSP. Agreement should have adequate provisions regarding the termination of the contract with the CSP. Whenever RE decides, they should be able to exit the contract. That part of the requirements and conditions to be put in the part of the agreement. The RE shall ensure that their data is stored in a easily accessible, legible, and usable manner. Reporting requirements, including the reporting by auditor, mean if we are engaged auditor to audit the cloud environment, the auditor should provide a clear reporting. What he has verified as per what requirement they has done the audit. Those reports has to be enforced by the RE whenever they engage third-party auditors. The framework, one minute. Just a minute. The framework, I don't know what is I'm not able to see this last line. Okay. Now this is the contractual requirements or obligations, very clearly defined. But any RE, they before going any contract with any CSP, they should adhere to these requirements. Otherwise, it will be a violation of the SEBI guidelines. Then number 8 principle is BCP, DR and cyber resilience. RE shall assess its BCP framework and ensure that it is in compliance with this cloud framework advised by the SEBI, as well as other guidelines, circulars issued by SEBI from time to time. Not only SEBI, any other regulators of the country also, they should consider with respect to BCP. And RE shall also assess the capabilities and the preparedness and the readiness with respect to the cyber resilience of CSPs periodically. Once is not enough, at the beginning not enough. At every annual or depending upon the risk level, they can go the assessment of CSP's readiness with respect to BCP as per their risk assessment, the risk posture. RE shall develop a visible and effective contingency plan to cope with the situations involved in the disruption or shutdown of the cloud services. In case something happens in the cloud end, RE should have a immediate requirement as a contingency plan, how to meet the customer requirement or the business requirements. Now, finally, the last principle is vendor lock-in and the concentration risk management from the RE point of view. Before entering into agreement with the CSP, RE shall assess its exposure to CSP lock-in and concentration risk. Every service they should not go to one particular CSP, but depending upon the risk posture or the requirement, importance or the criticality of the application or the business, they should choose more than one CSP at least. RE shall explore the option of cloud ready and CSP agnostic solutions. In case there is a disruption from the cloud environment, they should have in place very critical functions to be moved internally, which should be a cloud ready. Means the way the particular application runs in the cloud also should be able to run internally. That is expectation of this particular requirement in the framework. RE shall develop exit strategies which should consider the pertinent risk indicators, exit triggers, exit scenarios, possible migration options. This is a responsibility from RE. In case they have to come out of the agreement with a particular CSP, how they can do it, what is their internal capacity and what is their requirements, at what point of time they should exit, and under what circumstances they can disassociate with the one particular CSP which they are associated. The RE shall also take measures to implement a data portability and interoperability as part of the exit and transfer strategies. And finally, RE should follow industry best practices in respect of the vendor risk management while engaging a CSP. Vendor risk management is very critical, and what is the best practice from industry sources they should consider in doing the CSP evaluation when they decide to have a CSP association. These are the broad contours. The circular is very, very elaborate and clear. And now to summarize this entire framework, RS may have for any model of the deployment on the basis of its business needs and technology risk assessment. The cloud services shall be taken only from the MEITY empaneled CSPs. REs are solely accountable for all aspects of related to cloud services which they adopted by themselves. While deploying cloud services, the RE shall adopt the guidance provided in 9 principles enumerated in this framework. RE shall have a back-to-back clear and enforceable agreement with their partners, vendors, subcontractors, and CSPs whom they are going to get the services. There should be an explicit and unambiguous delineation or demarcation of the responsibilities between the parties. And there shall not be any joint or shared ownership of any data or any records of the RE when they go for the cloud environments. As part of system audit of the REs, the auditor shall verify and certify whether there is a clear demarcation of role and responsibility between the RE and the CSP or the MSP or SI, whoever there in the scenario. The agreement terms between RE and CSP shall include the provisions for the audit and information access rights to the REs as well as to SEBI and any regulatory bodies of the country. SEBI and certain any other government agency shall at any time can conduct direct audits and inspection of the resources at the CSP end. Engage a forensic auditor to identify the root cause of any incident in case the incident is very severe and where we need to do a forensic audit. Seek the audit reports from the audits conducted by the CSPs. CSP audit report, they cannot say that this is our own property, we cannot disclose it. But this framework very specifically mentioned it is a RE responsibility to incorporate this condition in the agreement, and whenever required, to understand what going wrong in the CSP services, they can get the audit conducted by the CSP itself. The data of RE should be processed within the legal boundaries of India. RE shall ensure that engaged CSP shall demonstrate all security controls listed in the framework. The compliance with respect to this framework to be reported regularly from 5th March 24 onwards as per the existing reporting of the system audit, cyber security audits of the RE. SEBI has already have a system to seek the reporting on the systems audit, that IS audits and cyber security audits of their respective REs. So now, apart from these two audits, SEBI also seeking compliance to this framework with effect from the 5th of March 24. So 5th of March 24 going to be 1 year time given by SEBI to their respective audits to prepare for this framework implementation. And other supporting frameworks or standards available for all of us. And RBI Master Direction on the Outsourcing of Information Technology dated 10th April 23. This particular circular has very clearly given what type of conditions we need to incorporate in an agreement with a third party when we outsource any services, particularly IT services. This circular is very good and very elaborately given by RBI in the month of April 23. And NIST SP 800-210, General Access Control Guidance for the Cloud Systems, is another source where we can look at for the cloud services implementation. And MIT also designed a practice document, which is called MIT Cloud Security Best Practice Document. This is also freely available. This is also very good, running into some 96 pages. Upon that, we have international standards like ISO 2701 2022, along with the ISO 27002 22 as a baseline information security standard, which we call ISMS. On that, ISO 27017 of 2015 standard or code of practice for information security controls for the cloud services. Whenever an organization takes cloud services, they can get this particular verified code of practices along with this ISMS. ISO 27018 2019 code of practice for protection of the PII in public cloud. When an organization putting the privacy data in the cloud, what are the requirements have been enlisted in the particular standard, and upon that, the CSI Cloud Security Alliance Star Level 2 certificate also being considered as a well thought developed certification for the cloud security, cloud services security part. CSI Star also globally acceptable standard. These are the further standards or supporting frameworks available to organizations to consider the security point of view in the cloud services. This is what I want to share with the team. And I thank you everyone for your time. And if any further clarification discussions, we can discuss if the time is there. And let me see the time. Now, before we open to 7:54. I think I use the time appropriately. Thank you everyone once again.
Adepu sir, Ramesh here. I think in the slide 3 or something in the principle 1, you said that Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology approved CSPs.
Right.
So do they regularly review it, and then do they give a kind of publish it actually? I don't know.
We need to ask our minister.
Okay, Rajesh Chandrasekhar. I think next slide, I think. Next slide.
Right, come.
Yeah. Principle 1, the
So
second slide.
the basic requirement for any organization, Ramesh,
Yes.
To choose a CSP, the
Right.
CSP should be enlisted in the ministry.
I think further slide you go. Next slide.
This one.
This slide, yeah, principle 2.
So
Empaneled CSPs. So
yes.
Any idea that the current CSPs whom we have who are all empaneled? I will check again.
Yeah, that is your ministry may hoga.
Okay.
I'll see.
Please. Now, Ms. Navi is back. That's why I wanted to have a question with him, discussion with him. Ms. Navi, sir.
Sir is there?
Yeah, I saw, sir.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Sir, you remember during our web DTS, we were discussing the same kind of concept for CS, right? Certified authority. By any chance, do we, whether the government of India or any agency in India recommends that the, empaneled CS or something? Sir, same question, in a different.
See, it is part of the law. ITA 2000 has given the criteria for CA, and there is a CCI, that is the Controller of Certifying Authorities, which is a statutory authority. So based on the technical standards and then the financial status and all that, licenses are given by CCA. Okay, CCA, of course, is closely working with MIT, but legally speaking, CCA is a different authority.
Okay. So what you are saying is that CCA would be the authority agency which empanels the guys, ABC.
Licenses, it is not empanelment, it is a license actually.
Okay. Here we are talking empaneling.
Yeah.
So now I understand probably that, let's say AWS or Google, right? GCP, Google Service Cloud. Only these two guys are empanelment. Then I'm expected to go.
There is a government this thing also, no?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not only AWS and Google, our Indian based companies also been empaneled. Like
correct. I just gave an example. You are right. Yeah. Okay, I will check that, Adepu sir. Good input actually.
And there is a government cloud service also, no? Adepu, what is that? Make Doot or something it's called.
Okay, I'm not aware, sir. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
That
NPCI, they put their own cloud environment.
In fact, government agencies are expected to use that service actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And service providers, the API providers can actually use that back end and then host their services there also. Okay. I think it's called Megdut, if I remember correctly.
Megdut, okay. Right. Great. Manju?
Wow, Ramesh, from my experience of auditing the 2701718, no?
Yes, sir.
We were to check these controls.
Ah.
Most of the companies, who are adapted for the AWS, Google, or the Microsoft Azure, they don't have a separate agreement. They by default, the standard agreement put by the CSP only they sign it without questioning.
Correct.
Now, with the implementation of this particular framework, no, they cannot do that. When we go audit for these REs, for the even 2701718 also, we can ask how you are complying with the SEBI. If they come as a RE by the SEBI, we need to ask, as an auditor, we need to ask this. Because in ISMS, one of the, complying with the applicable regulatory requirements, one of the control. Under that control, we can ask any company where we do audit for the 17 or 18, how you are complying with this requirement of SEBI, if you are SEBI monitored company.
Understood.
So if we see the coverage of SEBI, almost 50, SEBI and RBI combined, I assume that 50% of businesses in India will come under their purview.
Right.
Right, sir, Navi sir? The coverage of SEBI and RBI, all banking sector and all the share markets, including the share brokers.
Yeah.
They are in the coverage.
All these private sector are still using either AWS or your Azure only, I think. No? Most of them?
Sir, why the earlier AWS, they given the to small companies, MSCs, medium scale company, they given the free cloud access. That amount of space they given, you go and do whatever you want. So then the free, no. So they just gone and put their non-critical application there and see. So those type of companies, they came when their stakeholders or their clients ask him for the certification, they came for the 1718 certification of the ISMS.
Okay.
Right.
So this is the coverage, sir. SEBI circular covers all these entities. All stock exchange, including the energy stock exchange. No, recently there was a new stock exchange, social stock exchange.
Okay. Yeah, that is called Meghraj Cloud, Ramesh.
Meghraj Cloud, huh?
Yeah, that is managed by NIC.
Okay. I will take it from you in the WhatsApp. I will go through it tomorrow. Really interesting concept. Okay. Great, Adepu sir, really good input. Manju, are you there?
Yes. Are there any other questions or anybody wants to add any points to this?
I only have one point. Really appreciate his efforts. Beautiful, really. Thanks, Adepu sir. Good session.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Great. Yeah, Manju.
Thank you, Adepu sir, for taking the time and efforts to prepare this for us and presenting it here. It's always, whenever Adepu sir learns something new, he's eager to share it with all of us, and that's very. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir.